Hi, I'm Jackie Graff with Tonal Vision. This video is designed as an introductory tour to the Panasonic Lumix GH5S camera. It's designed for our videographers and others who want an overview of the camera. The GH5S is a mirrorless micro four thirds camera with many of its features designed for video. We purchased it because its small size and weight make it ideal for use with a gimbal or jib. But we've also discovered that it's great for long-form performances where we can mount it on a tripod and get a 4K wide view of the entire stage. The GH5S packs a lot of capabilities into a small space. With a little preparation and instruction and the right settings, you can easily grab it and get good photos or video. However, it is not a simple camera. Some calculate it actually has over 139 different menu options. To make matters worse, there's certain buttons you can bump unknowingly and end up with a situation that you don't understand and can't easily correct. We'll start with the front of the camera and mount a lens. The camera should be off. Take off the body cap and the rear lens cap just before mounting the lens. You want to minimize the opportunity for dust to get into the camera sensor and the back of the lens. There's a little red fitting mark on the back of the lens. Align it with the red mark on the camera lens mount. Once they are aligned, you can twist the lens and you'll hear a click as the lens is locked in place. To remove the lens, press the lens release button, then twist off the lens. This particular lens has a power image stabilizer built in. There's a little switch here that turns it on or off. This is the flash synchro socket. The cover unscrews. This is the preview or FN6 button for checking the effects of aperture and shutter speed in photo modes. Next, we'll cover the left side of the camera. At the top is a 1/8 inch stereo mini microphone jack. Immediately below it is the headphone socket. Under the bottom cover is an HDMI socket. HDMI is used with an external monitor and for recording or streaming video. At the bottom is a USB socket. The camera end is USB-C. The other is a standard USB-A cable that can plug into your computer. Next, we'll look at the bottom of the camera. Toward the left is a tripod mount, designed for shorter screws only. On the right is the battery door. With the camera off, move the release lever and the door will flip open. Pull this little lever back and the battery will pop out. You can also power the camera using AC power if you have a DC coupler and an AC adapter. The coupler fits in the battery compartment and the cable exits here. A depleted battery takes about 3 hours to fully charge. You can also purchase a battery grip for the bottom of the camera, which holds an extra battery. This grip would screw into the tripod mount and connect here. Continuing on to the right side of the camera, we have the card door. The camera holds 2 SD cards. An access light will turn on when you record to the card. A menu setting allows you to relay record, so when one card is filled, the camera immediately switches to the second card. The speed and capability of the cards you'll need will depend on how you use the camera. Above the card door is a remote socket. On top of the camera are a number of important controls. The shutter button allows you to focus and take pictures. Immediately behind the shutter button is the front dial. If I press the white balance button behind it, the front dial will allow me to change settings. Next to the white balance button is the ISO button. Pressing the ISO button and rotating the rear dial changes the ISO settings. To the right of the ISO button is the exposure compensation button. Because of our manual settings, this button is currently inactive.
I love the fact that you repeated 3 times something that said, "Don't use it." I think that's fucking just genius there. Don't use this. Don't use it. Another way of telling you don't use it.
No, you can use it, but it won't work.
Yeah, you can use it, but it ain't gonna fucking work because I just told you.
Behind this series of buttons is the FN1 button, which is programmable and is designed for frequently used settings. Next to the FN button is the record button. Behind the record button is the wireless connection lamp, which will light blue if you have a connection. Next, to the left, we have the on-off switch and the mode dial. For photos, we usually use Intelligent Auto. For video, we use Creative Video Mode because it unlocks certain functions. In the center of this dial is a lock button. Continuing on across, we have the hot shoe for flash and certain other attachments. In front of the hot shoe are the stereo internal mics. To the left of the hot shoe is the drive mode dial. This dial is for photo settings and allows you to choose from single, burst, self-timer, and time-lapse. Finally, the back of the camera. You've already seen a little of the touchscreen monitor. It's designed to be very flexible to accommodate different viewing angles. Just above the monitor is the viewfinder. On the left side is the FN5 or LVF button. LVF stands for Live Viewfinder. This button allows you to switch between the viewfinder and monitor. Immediately below the viewfinder is an eye sensor. If the LVF settings are changed, the monitor will switch off and the viewfinder on whenever the sensor is covered. On the right side of the viewfinder is an adjustment dial that lets you change it to match your vision. Underneath the viewfinder is the speaker. Below the LVF button is the playback button. The control dial on the far right lets you switch between recordings. On the right of the viewfinder is the focus mode lever. Selection options are AFS or autofocus single, and AFF autofocus flexible, AFC autofocus continuous, and M or manual. In the center is the AF AE lock button, which is designed for photographers to lock the focus or exposure when changing the composition. Immediately below is the joystick, which can be used to move around menus and to move the focus area around the screen. We've already seen the rear dial changing the ISO. Below it is the display button, which changes the amount and type of information on the screen. If you accidentally hit this button and can't see the picture, just hit it again. To the left is the FN2 or quick menu button. Below the FN2 is the FN3 or autofocus mode button. Pressing this button allows you to change the focus area and size. Although you can get to the menus in other ways, the rear control dial is the easiest way to access them. Press the button in the middle to bring up the menus, then the ring on the side to move around them. Now we'll talk a little about the menus. Menus are a big deal with this camera. There are well over 100 options, and they change depending on the mode dial settings, other menu settings, and sometimes even the lens. In our accompanying blog article, we'll list the settings that we use with this camera. There are a number of ways to navigate the menus. The first is the control dial on the back. A second way to navigate is with the touchscreen itself. As we've seen, you can also use the joystick. To get out of the menus, either press the shutter button halfway down or use the exit arrow on the touchscreen. Thanks for watching. This concludes our introductory tour video. We have a second video which deals with some essential skills for using the camera.